Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
Well, straight out of In Space Month, back to Earth, and back in time. I really wanted to just reach back into time and to do something very low-budget grindhouse from the 70s that has been on my list since I was a kid, to be completely honest with you. If you've seen the cover of this movie, the poster / video art, you'll know why. It's got a buxom babe in a bathtub, and there's a guy standing behind her with a drill, and it's called the Toolbox Murders. The tagline is, "Bit by bit, by bit, he carved a nightmare." And I do remember this from my childhood, but also I've been reminded constantly on the internet that apparently Stephen King at one point said that it was his favorite horror movie of the 70s. He probably said that in the 70s.
Yeah. I think he said something about it being one of the scariest movies he'd ever seen, and I wonder if we saw the same movie.
I know, right? Well, Stephen King was high for a considerable amount of that.
That's true.
The time back then. And I looked for the evidence of this, right? I mean, I'm sure maybe it's in Danse Macabre or something like that, which I read a long time ago.
Right, sure.
And I haven't read since, but I mean, I don't doubt that it's true. But yeah, a lot has changed since then, and a lot of horror movies have come and gone, and I don't think I would put it in that category anymore. But, it's an interesting grindhouse movie for us to check out. And again, one of those fulfillments of my childhood wishes. Nobody requested it. I doubt it was on your radar, but I'm finally happy to check it off our list. Had you even heard of this before?
I don't know. I mean, the title is familiar. I don't know if I knew that it was a movie or if it was a real story, or which, by the way, it purports to be.
It does.
I guess it's loosely based potentially on some murders. Some guy killed some women with tools. But no, I hadn't heard of it. You know, I, growing up, wasn't really drawn to these gritty movies of this era. I saw them on the shelves, but that wasn't my cup of tea. I was more of a Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Leprechaun. I don't know. These
franchises.
Yeah, not that this one is as bad as some of them, but the just really graphically violent person-on-person violence never really appealed to me. I started watching them in college just because, for science.
You're a completionist.
Yeah, right, exactly. And, I can appreciate them for what they are, and some of them are actually very well made, but it just was never my cup of tea. So, no, this didn't appeal to me then. We were talking just a month ago or something about the fact that we don't very often have the opportunity to see something for the first time. So I was looking forward to that. Ultimately, I was disappointed, but whatever. We can talk about it.
I mean, you've got to put it in its time and you got to put it in its place, right? The movie's, the genesis was there's a producer who was really taken by how much money Texas Chainsaw Massacre had made. And so he had it screened and said to a couple of his writer friends, "Can you write me something that would be kind of like this?" Mm-hmm. And so it's supposed to be a knockoff, but it bears no resemblance at all, really, to that, except that it's, somebody's going around killing people. And it was done cheaply and at a lower budget, and obviously didn't make as much money, although it made a significant amount. I mean, the budget was $165,000 and the box office gross was over $500,000 by the time it was done. So, and the people in this were well known at the time. So this movie came out in 1978. This is when I was born.
Yeah.
So it's going on 47 years old now. And I was really kind of surprised at the names in here. One of the names that jumped out at me in the very beginning was a name we've come across in this podcast a couple times. The cinematographer is Gary Graver. Gary Graver became a close personal friend of Orson Welles and famously worked with Orson Welles on that long lost movie, The Other Side of the Wind, that he had been working on, in his twilight years for decades and never quite finished, and then recently got finished. But Gary Graver also has done a lot of if you look at his IMDb pages, he's got hundreds of movies that he's either directed or been the director of cinematography for, dipping in and out of exploitation fare all this time, much like Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham did as well. But he dabbled a lot in porn under different names. And we did Trick or Treat, Do you remember that one? Or Trick or Treats?
Was that the rock and roll killer guy?
No, I wish. No, that was the really insufferable movie about the kid at home who...
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh, yes. I definitely remember that now.
Yeah, it was filmed in some famous person's house, and I think it had one of the Carradines in it, and it's lame as hell.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of see... I mean, as a cinematographer, he's fine. I don't know if I've been impressed, really, with much that I've seen of him so far. It's just fairly pedestrian. There's some interesting angles and shots and stuff in here. I mean, everything's really crisp and clean. You know, you can see everything. It's not all in shadow.
It feels very of the day. I feel like these types of movies at this time were shot in almost... This is going to make me sound stupid because I'm not educated in these things, but almost in a documentary style. Like, it's just very, just shoot it, you know, like just shoot it straight on. Not a lot of creative approaches. Just shoot it.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I feel that it gives it kind of that gritty, cheap feel that we expect from these movies. And that in itself may be a stylistic choice. I don't know. I didn't find the shooting of this movie to be particularly interesting. Actually, there are parts of it that I found to be frustrating. And part of that is from the very beginning. It starts out with somebody, I think somebody in black gloves, you don't see their face, driving around at night. And they drive by, like, there's a car accident outside of a car lot, and a girl falls out, and then it goes back to driving again. And then, this is what frustrated me from the beginning. There's lots of flashing, really, really quick cut flashes to, like, maybe a child's funeral. I didn't know what was going on. It took me a while to figure out what was going on, and then when I did figure it out, I just thought, I don't know, it was kind of stupid.
I think I know what you mean, because the editing is also very weird here at the beginning. We're in a POV of a car, but like you said, there's a car accident that happened. And at first I thought, oh, well, the car we were riding in had the accident. But then the car is driving past the accident after it gives us those flashes of a woman falling out, and then the woman being loaded into a emergency vehicle, and then at the hospital or on the gurney or something, her arm sort of falling off the gurney. And then there's some freeze frames. I can only guess they were missing some footage, or they were short of footage or something.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the freeze frames. I thought, okay, this movie's at least going for some style, so I'm hoping that it'll be a little stylish. And except for this and maybe another part where it gets equally weird with flashing, it doesn't really have any style.
No, and this felt more just kind of in service of being an opening credits sequence. It's not something that really continues throughout. I don't know. I feel like there was questionable editing in a couple of places.
Right.
I hate to jump ahead, but I'm afraid that I'll forget. There's one point, a young woman gets kidnapped and people are looking for her, and one of the main people who's looking for her is her brother. And maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but it appeared to me that at one point he found her, but then just kind of carried on with the rest of his day as though nothing had happened, and then came back. Did that happen?
I know what you're talking about, and I think that was his friend. I don't think that was him.
Okay, all right.
Because I had to rewind it actually there, because I had the exact same feeling. And I think I know the reason is because the camera does follow the brother as he's getting in his car and going somewhere. And then we pick up later, a kid comes out of his car, which seems like it would be him. Only as the scene goes on, you realize, only due to the hair color, as far as I can see, that it's actually his friend.
Okay, whatever.
And I had to rewind to confirm that. You're right. The editing was a problem because you can't just butt up two people driving in a car. One guy gets in to a car, another guy gets out of a similarly looking car a second later, and have them be two different people. You know, that's not very good.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I didn't really care because,
well, yeah,
I wasn't particularly invested, so whatever, who cares? What it comes down to, you know, okay, so then there's a guy with a toolbox, and he's wearing a ski cap.
Well, he isn't at first, is he? I don't think he is at first. He pulls it out later.
I think he is, because I don't know. I mean, this is just a choice. It's a fine choice, I suppose. But you know who the killer is from the very beginning. Or at least,
almost.
Spoiler alert, one of the killers. because like he wears that ski mask, but he's very recognizable. Like you can tell that as soon as he came on screen without the ski mask and like he's just the chummy owner of this apartment complex or whatever, I was like, oh, it's him. Like I just saw him in the mask.
Yeah, he looks just like him. They did. It was almost like they weren't even trying to hide it, really. Like,
I don't think they were.
I don't think so either. A lot of times in these movies, right, they do that trick where they'll put a different person in the mask.
Yes.
But this, they didn't even bother.
We just saw that with that terrible hospital movie. That surgeon walking around the whole time was not the actor who played the killer at the end. Not at all. But then my question is, why bother? Like, why put him in a mask? We know who it is.
Well,
I don't know. Who cares?
I don't know
it's
either.
More menacing.
Maybe it's more menacing,
or maybe he's, the character legitimately is trying to disguise himself and just doing a terrible job of it.
Well,
who knows? Whatever.
That's some of it. By the way, he's played by Cameron Mitchell, veteran actor, 244 credits.
He looked very familiar to me, but I scrolled through all of those credits and nothing stood out as being familiar to me, but he looked familiar.
All over television, like every television series you can imagine, he was on at least one episode. So he was one of those guys who popped in and out. Once I saw the list, I remembered, oh yeah, he was Jeremiah in the Swiss Family Robinson.
That's right. I did remember that. Mm-hmm.
So that was about it. But yeah, he's a very recognizable guy. He's got that kind of a cross between Tom Jones and David Hasselhoff.
Yes.
I don't know what you'd say.
Yeah, definitely got a Tom Jones vibe for sure. Yeah. Yeah, he's the killer. And first, he kills some woman who clearly is familiar with him. He kills her with a giant drill bit.
Yeah.
Like that you use to like bore holes in boards or whatever.
Yeah, like inch-wide holes.
And then a girl takes off her shirt and shows her boobs. She's just changing her shirt, but boobs.
But she turns on the hot water before she changes into her shirt.
I didn't even notice that.
I thought we were going to get a shower scene here. She comes in, she takes off her clothes, shows her boobs, turns on the hot water, puts on her shirt, and then walks out of the bathroom and starts doing something else completely. It's like, why did she turn on the water? Does it take that long for her water to heat up that she's got to put a shirt on in the midst of it?
I don't know. But the masked guy knocks her out and then...
Yeah, because she goes outside.
Yeah, I don't know why she went outside. Did somebody knock? I don't remember. Whatever.
It's like she went to get a package or something. It's really unclear.
No, it doesn't matter. And he knocks her out and then kills her with the claw end of a hammer, like hits her in the face with that.
Kind of out in public.
Just out in the hallway. This is like...
It's an open hallway.
This is Daniel LaRusso's apartment tenement from Karate Kid. That's what it looks like.
100%.
It's one of those, California 70s stucco apartment complexes with like a courtyard in the middle. And she's on, I think, the second floor. So she's kind of out, like on the balcony or whatever. But he kills her right out there.
Right there.
And then he carries her back into the apartment. Then another girl walks into that same apartment, sees the dead girl on the floor, and then she gets stabbed with a screwdriver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean...
I don't know. Like, this is all, like... who cares?
It all happens in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I had to say, I was kind of... At first, I was like, oh, at least the movie's really getting into it. It's getting into it fast. It's a little giallo at the beginning, right? Because he's got the black gloves. And
a little.
We're not seeing his face. And then it switches to POV at one point where he's approaching her with the drill.
Blood splatters
everywhere. It gets a little silly where, we're talking about the first woman where she runs into the bathroom and backs herself up against the door. And it seems like this woman is almost waiting for that drill bit to come through the door.
That's what I thought.
Before she runs away from it. They're trying. They're trying to create some tension and some excitement here, and it's pretty gory. He drills into her, and like you said, the hammer, the back end of the hammer, he stabs the other woman, blood splattering everywhere. It's pretty brutal. It's very grindhouse. It's low budget brutal. But then like this third girl, and I'm like, wait a minute, is this what this movie's going to be? Is he just going to go from door to door in this apartment complex and kill people?
Yeah, and apparently like this whole complex, most of it is inhabited by co-eds, like just sexy girls in lingerie who dance in front of their open windows.
Because he literally, after he stabs that one woman in the gut, he literally goes over to the window of her place, looks out the window, and we get almost like a rear window style view of the rest of the apartment where we see the top one and there's like, I don't know, some couple that are standing there. And then you look down and there's like a woman dancing in her lingerie. to disco music. It felt very porny at this point. What is this woman doing? And then she like opens the window. What is this? I just didn't get it.
Her apartment faces the courtyard.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, I could understand, you're vacuuming in your underwear and you're dancing. That's fine. No, she's putting on a little show.
Yes. For nobody.
She's standing in the window facing outdoors. It is dark outside, light inside. Like,
yeah.
This is just a little peep show. I don't know what's happening. It's fine.
It's just for the service of the movie.
It's fine. It's great.
Dude cleans a screwdriver on his shirt, packs it away, and leaves and goes to the next apartment. And that was when I was like, he opens the door. By the way, does anyone in this apartment lock their door? Because this guy just walks into every room. He looks in on a couple in there, and then he closes the door and moves on. And at this point, I don't know, there's like a woman who's like taking out the trash, and she stumbles upon the obvious bloodstains on the staircase out in the open where he had that body, calls for husband John. They knock on the door there where Deborah and Marie are, and they open it and they see the mess. There's just this long, lingering shot on the body of the woman who came in after and got stabbed. And now the cops are there. And they're asking questions. Yeah,
and there's a detective named Mark, and they're asking questions and stuff. And, like, we're introduced to the building owner, Kingsley, who is clearly the killer. You know this immediately when you see him.
Right now, you know it.
And he knows... He says something about being invested in his clientele or something. Like, he knows everything about the people who live in his building. And then we meet what I guess become our main characters who also live in the complex. It's Lori... She's supposed to be 15, but she doesn't look 15.
No.
She was 17, she was cast. She was 18 when they started filming. And I read that, I don't know if it was the director or the producers, I don't know. But when they found out that she had turned 18, they really pressured her to do a nude scene, and she just refused and eventually threatened to walk if they didn't back off. So they backed off. Good for you, girl who played Lori.
Right. Imagine that. Oh, she's 18. Go in there. Show us your boobs. Show your boobs for our movie.
She's supposed to be 15, but let's get her naked.
Right.
So gross. Men are disgusting.
She doesn't look, she looks like she's in her 20s, honestly. This woman's played by Pamela Ferdin, who was a longtime child actress. And at first I thought, okay, this was her trying to get out of her child acting role. Like she was in Disney movies.
She voiced Lucy from the Peanuts cartoons. I think she originated that role.
She voiced someone in Charlotte's Web. She's been in a lot of these things. But then I read later, no, she actually didn't even like acting. She was in it because her parents forced her to be in it. And she more or less retired from acting a couple years after this movie. I think she did come back to play some voices in a couple cartoons like in the early 2000s, but that was about it. But yeah. She's in this movie.
Right, fine. She's fine. Whatever. She doesn't have a lot to do, really. She seems cute and sweet, and that's what they're trying to, they're setting her up as this cute, sweet girl, and she lives with her mom and her brother. And so then we get more murderer shots, and he's humming to himself as he walks around the complex.
I thought that was funny, actually. He's carrying the toolbox up on his shoulder and walking by the camera so we can't see his face.
Well, and it also, it makes sense. He could walk around here in broad daylight and nobody would think anything of it. He owns the place. Like, he could be doing maintenance, whatever.
That's true.
But then we get to this, there's this redhead in her apartment, and she gets buck naked and gets in the and she gets in the tub and she starts jerking off, and like, that's fine. Get it, whatever. It felt very porny.
It was super porny.
Like, why am I watching porn again?
I thought, again, knowing Gary Graver, I thought surely he pulled this woman out of porn. You know what I mean? Like, she is very comfortable being completely nude here with these crotch shots of her masturbating just underneath the suds in this. And then it turns out, after this movie, this woman, Kelly Nichols, who at this point had no problem doing the scene because she had already been nude modeling, went on to be a full-time porn actress. Apparently very, very popular in the late 70s, early 80s.
And that's fine, too. I
don't have a problem with it.
I know you don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it either, I suppose. It's just, ultimately, there is a motive for it because, what's the point in trying not to spoil anything? Like, I guess that the killer is like a moralist or something. Like, I don't know. It's not any different, I guess, than Jason killing all the bad people who have sex and do drugs. Like, this guy thinks that people who have premarital sex or touch themselves, apparently, are dirty and must be killed. He stands there. The reason that this scene really bothered me is because not only is she masturbating in the tub, fine, I've jerked off in the tub a million times, who cares? But it's just that it lingers for so long, and he stands there and watches her come. Like, come on, like, this is so exploitive isn't even the right word.
It's sleazy.
It's sleazy.
It's
It's
sleazy.
sleazy. Gross.
But it's kind of what you expect. Kind of what you expect in a movie. Like, it's checking all the boxes. I mean, you could see this movie. I mean, who's going to come see a movie called The Toolbox Murders? It was probably playing in some dirty theaters in Times Square, or in drive-ins. Yeah, they were wanting this shit, and the movie delivers. 100%. This is where they also do another one of those crazy cuts. Like, right when she comes, like, suddenly it's like really flashy cuts to her crotch and her face and her hands and the bubble bath and blah, 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 blah.
So he kills her. He chases her around fully nude.
Yeah, through the house. That was something.
And then shoots her with a nail gun.
Now, let me tell you something about nail guns. We all know how nail guns operate. We've talked about this in horror movies a million times. Obviously, this nail gun that he has isn't a very modern nail gun. It doesn't look anything like what I've had, but usually they don't work unless you actually have them pressed up against wood.
Right.
Precisely so you can't run around and shoot them like guns.
Shooting people.
But the other thing is, nail guns operate under pressure, and they usually have to be hooked up to something. There are electric nail guns nowadays, but most nail guns are air-powered. This is hooked up to nothing. This has no battery in it. This is kind of before batteries were good enough that you could get high-power tools that are battery-operated. It's not plugged into anything, and you can look at this in the handle. I mean, it's really silly, this idea that this nail gun that he's running around can shoot nails across the room. It just wouldn't work. It's missing power. and he loads it like a frickin' double-barreled shotgun, kicking it back and putting more nails in it and closing it. It was a groaner, let's just put it that way. And he's shooting at her, and she runs onto the bed, and she ran onto what I thought was a waterbed. I thought I saw where this was coming, I thought I saw where this was going, because I thought, oh, he's going to shoot her on the waterbed, and we're going to get something cool like Pieces, with that awesome kill on the waterbed, which this movie reminds me a lot of, too, because it was equally sleazy, but a lot more fun. And then, like all the girls in this movies do, like, they don't really do anything logical. They just sit there and wait to be killed, more or less, or just cower in the corner and writhe around a little bit.
Well, actually, this one I thought was one of the more uncomfortable. The kills are very fast, usually, and this one he menaces her for a little while, and she tries to negotiate with him. I think basically she's offering to have sex with him. Yeah. Just don't kill me. And of course it doesn't work. He kills her anyway. But I actually thought that this actress did a fine job.
Yeah.
Like she seemed scared, but also, oh God, I'm analyzing it far too much. She seemed alert. like she was really like, I could see in her head, like the wheels spinning. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out?
Well, at least she ran.
Yeah. She seemed scared. So I thought she did a good job. Good job, naked girl.
Yeah. Good job, Miss Kelly Nichols. But then, he sits down next to her, and he starts rubbing her boobs, but she must get second thoughts or something, because he's put the gun down. Like, she could probably pull this off, but she decides to dive off the bed. And this is where we get those jump cuts again, back to the accident. That was shocking. I wasn't expecting to have a reference back to that. It actually matches up really well. Her falling from the bed and this person that we had seen earlier falling from the car. And she runs all away, and he picks up the nail gun again, and as she's by the door, he shoots her in the stomach. That is enough to completely incapacitate her, because she turns around and kind of lays back down in not also very provocative way of dying, but anyway, she's laying back, and he stands over her. He reloads the gun and shoots her right in the forehead. Pretty gruesome. And her arm falls down to her side, much like that arm on the woman who died in the accident. We get another cut straight to that. So I was like, what are they trying to do here? What is the connection they're trying to make between this woman or this act and that woman who I already had forgotten about, who had died in the car accident? So I'll give them that. You know, they were trying for something a little artsy here.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
at least trying to call back to that, remind us that it happened.
yeah, there's not really much purpose to it. Like, I feel like the killer's motives are a little bit nebulous for me. To get to the motives,
Yeah, might as well.
the next thing that we see is that I think Lori, the young girl, 15-year-old girl, is in her bed, and the killer smothers her with a pillow. And I thought that she was surely dead. And then the complex and the police discover the redhead's body, but they do not discover her body. She is missing. So now I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Her brother Joe wants to find her, and the cops interrogate him, and he gets all pissed off because he feels like they're treating him like a suspect, and he just wants to find his sister.
By the way, I love that interrogation. It's the lamest, most unrealistic interrogation ever. I don't know why the cop is harassing this guy, but basically his conclusion is,
Look, Joey, we got 4 violent, bloody murders and a possible kidnapping. I'm supposed to think this guy butchered these girls and kidnapped your sister? I mean, it's possible, but it doesn't make sense.
why not? You've got an apartment complex where people are being butchered. This guy's sister is missing. Why does it not make sense that these could be connected?
Well, and yeah, the guy, Mark or whatever, doesn't matter. Who cares? The detective is very aggressive, not physically, but verbally, like accusatory. You know, when Joe gets defensive, I would too. You know,
Yeah, of course.
And the cop just seems completely incompetent. Like you said, it's not even like how just are these things connected. He's like, oh, I'm sure she's fine. She'll show up.
You're making a big deal out of nothing.
Are you stupid? We've just found 15 dead women, but don't be dumb. I'm sure she just ran away. She'll be fine. And Joe's like, okay, well, I guess if you won't find her, I will. And the cop's like, yeah, I'm sure you will. Okay, thanks for your help, sir. So then Joe goes back to the murder scene. I guess he's going to be a detective now.
How?
And I don't know. And his handsome friend Kent is there. Have we ever met Kent before?
No, this is our introduction to Kent.
So he's handsome. I guess he was the son on the Land of the Lost.
Oh, God, yeah.
That TV show where they got they went through a time rift and ended up in prehistoric times and had to live amongst the dinosaurs and stuff. I liked that show.
I loved that. I was so fascinated and scared by that show when I was a kid. I still have weird feelings about it.
He's this handsome guy, and we find out that he is the nephew of Vance, who is the owner, the killer. So we know this. And he's been hired by his uncle to clean up these crime scenes so that they can re-rent the units. This was porny, too. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie. Those guys were seconds away from tearing each other's pants off. There was so much sexual chemistry between these guys. I was just waiting. And at some point, they're just in this apartment and they're talking to each other. And Joe at some point says, Kent, you want to help me with something? And I was like, here we go. Oh, yeah.
You've seen this movie.
So many times.
You look tense. You could use a massage.
Oh, and it gets even better. They break into the other murder scenes, and one of them finds a dildo and throws it at the other one. You guys.
And then they look at the nail in the wall, and Kent's like, hey, come look at this. And he goes, a nail gun. And there's a musical cue, it's some kind of revelation. I think it was pretty obvious to everybody that the killer killed her with a nail gun. This whole notion that they are doing some kind of detective work is silly because they find nothing. Nothing they find amounts to anything. And the cops are just lame. Again, it reminded me a lot of Pieces. Pieces had this sort of thrown in there because you have to have it in there, detective, who couldn't really do anything, who didn't ask any of the right questions, just had to show up every time there was a body and go, yeah, that really sucks. I'm going to need to get you down to the station. We're going to need to talk for a few minutes. So as a mystery, it totally fails.
Well, it fails because there's a twist that isn't really projected at all. So when it happens, it's like, what? Okay, whatever. But this part was so funny to me when they realized they're like, hey, check this out. she was killed with a nail gun because they find a nail shot into the wall surrounded by blood. Explain to me how that happened.
I know, right?
Did the nail like travel through her body and carry a large amount of blood with it and then impale itself in the wall? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But my favorite part about it is when Kent is like, she was killed with a nail gun, and he looks over and he sees something, the toolbox. I think he sees the toolbox or something. And there's a look. This is one of the very few times I wish that we were still doing this on video, because a look, the most melodramatic look comes over his face like, wait a second. Like you totally, like he projects so hard on his face like, oh shit, I know what's going on, but I'm not gonna say anything.
Because he's my uncle.
Right.
So funny that your uncle who fixes up apartments would have a toolbox. Imagine that. Oh.
Yeah.
So then Laurie's mom, who is like just portrayed as perpetually drunk or always at the bar, or
this scene is pointless.
This scene goes nowhere. There's no point to it at all. She goes into an empty bar, turns everything on. There's some guy named Al who comes over and comforts her.
Laurie's close, Al.
Yeah?
I mean, I feel it. I can just sense it somehow. I keep thinking any minute I'm going to look up and she's going to be just standing there.
Or she'll call. She could call him.
She will when she gets the chance. Oh, Al!
And then that's it. We're back at the boys' house.
It's like a 5-minute scene. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's just to fill out time.
I suppose.
But Stephen King loved it, apparently, so.
I guess. But you're right. Now the two boys are together, and they're in the killer's garage, and you see the toolbox. Like, it's not like this is any big surprise to us. We already know. So yeah. I don't know what okay, thank you for confirming what we've known for the whole time.
As if to put an exclamation point on it, the guy pops out around the corner all shady, and then pops back into his room.
He pops back into the back of the house, into a bedroom, where he has Laurie dressed up like a baby doll, and tied to the bed with lace.
Yes.
This infuriates me.
I know. It was so irritating.
I remember when I was a kid, actually, there's still this nice old lady that's friends with my family. And every year for Christmas, she gifts my mother a tea towel with a little lace trim that she sews on the bottom. That little lace trim that's, maybe an inch in width is what this girl is tied down to the bed with.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. She could so easily just squirm right out of there. And not only that, but he's got her gagged with it. He may as well have her gagged with a shoestring. That doesn't do anything.
It doesn't.
Like, that's just annoying.
Right. To say that she's tied down is generous. She's sitting up in bed. These two long-ass ribbons are from either end of the thing, tied around her wrists in the middle, where she's got her hands together like she's praying, just in a prayer position. It's like there's so many. This would be the easiest thing in the world to get out of. And there are heart-shaped pillows all around her. And he comes in and he starts combing her hair and stuff. And this is where we get our long-ass monologue about his Kathy. And at first I thought his Kathy was his wife. I guess his Kathy was his daughter. Mm-hmm. And she's the one who died in the car accident. And God, this monologue goes on far too long. I suppose it was supposed to sound fascinating, like we're getting this deep psychological insight into this guy, but it just goes all over the place, and it's so melodramatic about how the world is bad, but when he hurts these people, he makes it quick because he never wants to cause suffering. And he killed the woman downstairs who did terrible things to her body. The most unnatural acts to her own body. Oh my God. They were all committing unnatural acts with each other.
Yeah, and it's all religious and just fanatical. I mean, it's stupid.
To be fair, this is projected a little bit because the very credit sequence that we saw, there is like some preacher on the radio in what is presumably the killer's car going past the scene of the wreck. I don't think it was the scene of the wreck. I think it was the memory of the wreck as he's driving by. But nonetheless, there is that aspect to it. And then, of course, when the cops are talking to him, he says, oh, I know everybody in here. I know everything that's going on. I can see everything. So, they sprinkle these little... It's not like this comes out of left field, but again, like we said, we've already know who this guy is. All we needed was the motive, and the motive is just dumb.
Yeah. And he says, I mean, he just rants forever, and he's a religious nut, and he's like, I tried to keep her right, I tried to keep her good, and he keeps calling her Kathy, and she tries, playing along, calling him daddy or whatever, but it doesn't really work. And he just keeps getting weirder. He's like, did it hurt when you died? And she has a great line.
Dying's easy. It's over in a second. This hurts worse.
Which I thought was...
She's smart.
Was really smart.
Yeah, she is really smart. It doesn't work, but it's pretty smart.
No, right.
Then he goes back to putting that little piece of lace in her mouth and moves on.
Yeah, and then there's another scene that I have no idea what the point of it was. I think the cop is talking to the mom, and is he hitting on her?
That was so weird. He's back at the bar. The detective's talking to the mom, and it's really noisy, so he takes her to a booth. And it's just like, I'm looking for Lori, but I'm at a dead end. I'm fishing. And she's like, well, I'm only doing what I know to do, which is to get drunk. And he's like, I know, I'm also used to working long hours. Maybe you and I ought to get together. And what? He puts his hand on her hand, and then she's like, oh, no, I think you just need to go looking for Lori. And he's like, oh, okay, never mind then. Nothing comes of this scene.
Yeah, and then I feel like we never see them again.
I don't even think we see the cop again. Do we ever see the cop again? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Oh my God.
This was the part that I was confused by, because this is when we see somebody who I thought was Joey look in the window where Lori is tied up.
Yeah.
But I guess that wasn't Joey, it was Kent?
I think it was Kent. Look, I don't know. We're back to the boys, but I don't understand what they're trying to do. Because you're right. At first it's Joey, and he's going to his mom's, and he gets her purse or something, and then he decides to go back somewhere. Then he gets in a car, and then he's in another room. I don't even know. And then you're right. And then suddenly he what looks like him gets out of a car, but actually it's Kent, and he goes around to the back of this apartment, and he knocks on the window above, and you're right. It's above Lori. And I thought, oh, why isn't Kent doing anything? And then I thought, okay, maybe he is going to do something, or maybe he's going to confront his uncle, or maybe he literally doesn't see her because she is directly below him.
Below, yeah. I thought that was a possibility, that maybe he didn't see her. I'm still uncertain, because Kent has really dark hair, and Joey has
blonde,
light, sandy kind of blonde hair, and I could have sworn that was Joey. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Vance, the killer, sings to Lori. That was weird.
That was very weird. Also went on too long. Oh.
And then Joey comes back to the killer's house and looks in the toolbox in the garage, but then Kent confronts him, and Kent says, I have to protect my family, and to my complete shock, douses Joey in gasoline, kerosene, something flammable, and then walks around like I guess Joey kind of falls to the floor and is kind of scrambling around, and Kent is taunting him, lighting matches and throwing them in his direction, and singing
Kent?
I just wrote, I don't, Joey burning bright, something, I don't know, but he's obviously a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, Loonatoon.
Ken is like a magician. He's producing matches from nothing. It's like he keeps pulling them out of it, like a magician continues to produce cards from an empty hand. It was so funny.
And striking them with this thumbnail, which I've always thought is really cool. I've never been able to do that.
I know. I think you have to have a special kind of match to do that, actually. But yeah. Someday I'll just practice that.
But I was shocked, because I thought that Joey was the hero of this movie.
Yeah.
I thought that he was going to rescue his sister. No. Kent throws the match on him and burns him to a crisp. He's dead.
Yeah, that was surprising. Really surprising. It's also surprising he didn't burn down the rest of the house with it. Also surprising that Dad didn't pop out to see what was going on, because he's literally down the hall.
Yeah, but he's just, talking to Lori nonsense. And then Kent comes in and he's like, oh, here's Kent. Kent always helped me. He helped keep the dirty boys away from Lori. And this scene was so weird.
Oh my God.
Because now all of a sudden, this poor girl is sitting on this bed witnessing two lunatics have a conversation. And at first, Kent is like acting all innocent as though he didn't just immolate his best friend in the garage.
Yes.
Like, acting like he doesn't know what's going on. Like
he's surprised.
Yeah, like he's surprised. And then he's like, what are you talking about? I never helped you. And then he says, Kathy, who is his first cousin, he's like, we loved each other. So all those times that we were going away, we were making sweet, sweet love.
Oh, man.
So Vance and Kent vow to kill each other and then take their fight out into the kitchen.
Vance is holding a doll. You got to mention that Vance
Yeah.
is holding this doll that he was like...
In a wedding dress.
Oh, God.
A bride doll, like a porcelain doll. And I think that Kent picks up a knife and Vance grabs it by the blade or something. Somehow, it both cuts him and cuts off the head of the doll. So there's blood all over this white wedding dress of the doll. And he says to Kent, you hurt my Kathy. You're a heathen. You killed her again. And then Kent stabs Vance kind of. Really, Vance kind of more walks into the knife than anything else. But
It's so weird because it's kind of at odds with his whole I got to protect my family angle that he had moments ago with Joe. But I guess he's just a lunatic, so whatever. Then Kent becomes even more loony.
Yeah. He tries to put the doll back together, which somehow he's able to do. I don't know how he stuck that head back on.
Washes it off. He's super happy. He's cackling.
Yeah, he sprays it off in the sink.
Ugh, so dumb.
He unties Lori. She literally screams, I'm free! And then he rapes her. Like, this,
I mean, you can't remain a little girl for the rest of your life, he says. It was really gross.
It was really gross, and I knew, like, I'm looking at the time, and I know that there's literally, like, 3 or 4 minutes of this movie left. Mm-hmm. And, thankfully, it's off screen. He starts to get aggressive with her. You can tell what's going to happen, and then it cuts to black and comes back in the aftermath.
Yeah.
And you know what's happened, but thankfully they didn't show it to us. But they're laying there.
He says to her, we're married now, Lori, just the way Kathy and I were married. Oh, gross.
Yeah. And he's like, you're gonna be so happy here or something. She looks over to the bedside table where there's a huge pair of scissors. And then again, it cuts away, and the next shot that we see is her ambling in the early dawn through a parking lot, and the nightgown that she's wearing is covered in blood. So obviously she's killed him. Good job. Good for you.
Very much like Texas Chainsaw, right? So for at least in this, it kind of mimics that whole stumbling down the street at dawn, final girl kind of thing. And then we get that big, long-ass title card on the screen. It says, the events dramatized in this film actually took place in 1967. And it goes into great detail on dates and things. Lori spent from 1967 to 1970 in a mental institution, and her mother in 1974 was killed in a single car accident, and in 1975 she was married, and she and her husband now have one child and live in California in San Fernando Valley, just 4 miles away from where all this happened. And I didn't believe a word of it.
No.
I mean, it's odd too, right? Like usually when they do this kind of thing with a movie, it's used to promote the film. It's like it gets people in the theaters. It's at the beginning based on a true story, even though it's not, which I suppose isn't that exactly what Texas Chainsaw did too?
Yeah.
Isn't there a based on a true story in the beginning?
Oh, yeah.
And it legitimately kind of was. I mean, it's based very loosely on Ed Gein, but still.
Yeah.
To have it at the end is weird. When you're trying to promote your movie, it probably at least should have said something about it at the beginning. I don't know.
Gosh, I don't know either. I'm sure that at some point in time, there was somebody who killed somebody with tools. Right. Okay, I'm willing to believe that. This whole convoluted nonsense with the nephew, and incest, and that's all just silliness, but whatever. I mean, even if this is even loosely based on some kind of true crime, that's even still more than some of these movies just make shit up, which again is fine. I don't care. But I was turned off by the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I just felt like that even the insinuation of rape was unnecessary for me.
Yeah.
The girl was supposed to be 15. I didn't like it. I get it. I know that horrible things happen, and it's not like something like I Spit on Your Grave where I actually had to watch it in terrible detail.
True.
So I'm grateful for that. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
The movie wasn't good enough to warrant it for me.
I see. It didn't earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like two different movies, too. It starts off as this really brutal slasher, and it's just one body after another, after another, after another. And then, like, halfway through, suddenly it's trying to be this psychological study of a killer, like Maniac or something. Mm-hmm. And it's a change in tone, really. I mean, it all feels sleazy. So that tone remains, but the direction the movie was going in, I mean, the guy's not killing anybody anymore. Now he's taking this girl hostage. There's all this weird shit. Why?
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's just not a very satisfying story. It's trying to be twisty and it's trying to be interesting, and I'll give it that it's trying. It's certainly more interesting than some movies we watch, but
sure.
But yeah, it didn't really do it for me. It was okay.
It was fine. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you are into these kinds of movies from the 70s, it's fine.
Oh.
It's serviceable. We've seen far worse.
It's almost like a perfect representation of these kind of movies. I mean, really, grindhouse film. Apparently in 2004, Tobe Hooper did a remake of this called Toolbox Murders.
I didn't watch it, but I looked at it a little bit. I don't even, it sounds like it doesn't sound anything like this movie at all. Like the whole premise of it isn't even similar. So I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested in watching it because I like Tobe Hooper as a director. I think he's a good director, so I would definitely watch it. But I don't know. It didn't sound like a remake at all. It's called Toolbox Murders, so
yeah,
it purports to be a remake. But I mean, even if you look, just the cover art shows some kind of like mutated, deformed guy in like a burlap sack mask. and if you read the plot description, it's like some woman or something moves into an old estate and there's some ancient evil lurking there behind the walls. What?
It sounds very Tobe Hooper.
I mean, that sounds fine, but it doesn't sound like this.
Maybe there are tools involved.
I'm sure there are.
I don't know. There's also a sequel to that one that was announced in 2009.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it got made in 2013 by a guy named Dean Jones, who's done a lot of makeup for like the Star Trek series and stuff, and has Bruce Dern in it. Apparently a bunch of other people were attached to it, but one by one they kind of peeled off. And I think Bruce Dern was the only one left.
Bruce Dern?
Yeah, but it doesn't look very good. It's, again, you read the description. Samantha is kidnapped by a serial killer, locked in a cage, and forced to witness dozens of people being killed. And after 10 days in captivity, the killer begins to fall in love with her until she is rescued by police.
Well, that kind of sounds more like this movie than the other one.
It really does, doesn't it? And I think it has the alternate title, Coffin Baby. So even Toolbox Murders 2 wasn't enough to get that movie going. Apparently. It also doesn't have very high reviews, but Bruce Dern's in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like Bruce. He's great. I can't give this movie any kind of glowing recommendation.
No.
It was okay. It was whatever for me. It's also not something that I would say, oh, don't watch it. Like, you'll feel like you've completely wasted your time. I mean, it's fine. It's whatever. I just, I can't get enthusiastic about it.
As an artifact of a typical 1970s exploitation film, this does indeed check all the boxes. It's even got the people involved who are crossing over into other genres and porn and all that stuff. It's porny, it's sleazy, it's gory, it's brutal. It's also very nonsensical and doesn't give really a shit about the plot. So again, like you said, if you're into those movies or you just kind of enjoy watching them as time capsules, I would say this is probably one of the better ones. But to be fair, Pieces is 10 times better than this and far more entertaining. That's kind of become my standard, actually. I always compare these movies to Pieces.
Yep, you do.
Is it better than Pieces? Is it as fun as Pieces? And it's not.
Yeah, I would say that this is more in line with like Last House on the Left. It's not as brutal, and as brutal as Last House on the Left is, Wes Craven was just a really talented director, and so you can at least appreciate the filmmaking. The filmmaking isn't poor here, it's just not exceptional. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think I've said everything I have to say.
That's fine. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend. If you have other exploitation movies that you think we just need to see, go ahead and reach out to us. Just Google Two Guys and a Chainsaw Podcast, and you can find our website, chainsawhorror.com. You can leave us a voice message on there to request something. It's very, very simple. You just do it right through your browser. You don't have to sign up for anything. Subscribe to our newsletter. We put out a weekly newsletter, and any replies to that go straight to us, or you can just comment on our social media or anywhere we are. We'd love to hear your requests. If you are interested in shaping the show and becoming a patron, then you can just go to patreon.com/chainsaw podcast. That is one of the privileges our patrons get, is to look at our long list of requests and vote on which one we're going to do next. They also get complete unedited versions of our episodes. They get lots of little behind the scenes things, mini-sodes that we put out, little mini reviews we write, and a book club that has been going strong for quite a while now. If any of this interests you, once again, that is patreon.com/chainsaw podcast. Until next week, I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
With Two Guys and a Chainsaw.